It's the Empowerment Perspective Podcast, hosted by Demiso Josie and Mr. Kareem Spence. Stay empowered. Stay empowered. All right, welcome to yet another episode of the Empowerment Perspective Podcast. I go by the name of Dr. Demiso A. Josie, alongside
Spence is here.
Kareem, you there? Kareem is there. We're doing something a little different for everybody. Yeah, I hear you, man. I told you got to pay that internet bill and you come across a little cleaner over there, but it's all right. Due to the current situation that we're dealing with, obviously globally, we're going to try something different and do some podcasting in a different platform. So you're going to see our ugly faces on here a little bit more, and hopefully we won't get too disgusted by it, but we have some good information for you like always. This is season 4. This is episode 2 of season 4. Kareem, man, how are you holding up right now, given the situation that's going on?
Man, life is hard, man. I ain't gonna lie. Like, they closed down the barbershops. They closed down the gym. Man, it feels like I'm in solitary confinement. I can't handle company. Life is hard.
No barber, man. What are you doing? You got that butter knife out the kitchen? You shaving and stuff?
Nah, I got like 90 hats and I'm going to wear, so I have one on today. So I'm going to keep wearing hats. I'm going to cover this bald head until I can actually make it to the barber. I was smart enough to make it to the barber last week.
All right, so you got that one last final cut in, and hopefully it'll last you the 8 weeks that we're going to be locked down.
Man, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Rough sledding. I'm going to be online looking at YouTube how to cut my own hair.
It'll be like that scene from Malcolm X, Shorty is burning. Shorty is burning.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That is funny. So this is our 4th season. Working on the Empowerment Perspective Podcast. So the first episode I actually did without you because I couldn't figure out how to do this go-to meeting or whatever the thing is that we're on. But I did talk to Laura, and she spoke about the adoption process. She talked about that whole entire process in the foster care system. Just as a basic recap to that, we're talking over 135,000 babies get adopted in America each year. So the work that she's doing out there is really, really helpful. She has 2 adopted children now, along with her 2 other children. So we're gonna have a part 2 of that when she tells the story of her second adoption. But and I spoke about how our Christmas party, we donate to CHOP. Again, always will be like that because we donate the toys and money and proceeds directly to CHOP, specifically the pediatric ward, and just so that those kids can have a sense of feeling loved and be able to enjoy those holiday seasons. And her story pretty much touched on that to a T. So thank Laura for that. We'll definitely be having her back on the show for sure. But like always, we hit our network, we go out and we try to find people who have interesting stories and who are doing some interesting things out there. But before I get to that guest, I do have to ask Kareem, you're in education from a counseling standpoint, given everything that's going on right now. What are some tips and things that I guess parents could use if their children are struggling with anxiety right now?
They really just need to relax, like, because this is a frustrating and a different time. Like, we've never, ever, at least in my generation, never had to experience anything like this. I know years ago we had what we call the Black Plague, but for our generation, we've been in a bubble for so long, and across the nation, we've never had so many people affected at one time with this massive scale. Mm-hmm. So for parents, they just need to relax, and just like with any other student that has difficulty, they just really need to give them frequent breaks, as many breaks as possible. So we can even use it as we're in the gym. Like, you can go, 15, 20 minutes on, 2-3 minutes, 5-10 minutes, take a break, then you go back on, because this is difficult. Like, online learning is not for everybody. I did it twice and got my master's degrees in online learning only because I couldn't sit in the classroom no more. But this is not something that anybody can just jump into, especially when they're young, because you have to be disciplined. You have to be able to sit there and get the assignments done.
Right. And to the parents out there, also still understand that the schools are still available for you in terms of resources. The guidance counselors are definitely standing by. So if you're struggling, please reach out to somebody. I don't care if it's us. If you want to email us, we'll definitely help you out as best we possibly can with the situation with your children. So we're all in this together. But use your resources that are still available to you.
There are tons of resources. So, I mean, even for my school, we had families utilize calm.com just to be able to get that sense of peace and that inner peace. If parents, if you're freaking out, then guess what? Your kids are going to freak out, and then they're not going to get any work done.
That's true. That is true. But I do want to get to our guests. We always like to have guests here on our Empowerment Perspective podcast. And we've been saying it for a long time. Like, we're not afraid to reach out to people that have information and good information for you and good stories. So I did some digging in LinkedIn. As usual, it's probably our number one networking tool. And I've just been reaching out since I have nothing else better to do but to actually work in the house. So I went and reached out, and I found this lady who's doing some wonderful things out in the Midwest within the prison system. She's also coming out with her book that we're going to get into. But I definitely wanted to thank her for agreeing to be a part of this, because like many of our guests, they don't know us from Adam, but they have a story to tell and some information to get out there, and we want to get it to our audience. So Beth Deacon, welcome to the Empowerment Perspective podcast. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for agreeing to be on and putting up with us for the next couple of minutes. I'm
excited to do so. Awesome. You guys seem like a lot of fun.
That's what we try to do. Educate and have fun at the same time. So I want to get into what you do. You're an educator right now out in the Midwest. I believe you're in Iowa right now, but I want to talk specifically as to, I believe you have 25 plus years in education. So I want to get into why you decided to get in education in the first place. Like, we're big on our why here at the Empowerment Perspective Group. Why did you decide to get into education in the first place?
There's always that one teacher that makes a difference in your lives. And that's exactly what happened to me. My high school math teacher, Mr. Adolph Passant, just incredible teacher, believed in all of his students, worked after hours with his students, took time for every student. And I love that about him. And he took extra time with me. He found something special in me. He showed me that math is beautiful. And I say that to everybody nowadays. Math is just beautiful. It's everywhere. And I learned that from him. When I was teaching, it came pretty easy, or when I was in high school, math came pretty easy to me. And he made me a tutor, which allowed me to work with other of my classmates and other kids, people that were struggling with math. And to watch someone struggle and to be able to help them and see them succeed, what's better than that? And I did that for a couple of years while I was in high school, and I had such a love for math that's the path I decided to take. But it was because of Mr. Passant. He believed in me.
Right.
He pushed me.
I hear part of what you're saying is more so the relationship that he established with you as teacher and student.
Yes, absolutely.
Relationships when it comes to education, how important is it for teachers to be able to establish a relationship and a rapport with their students?
You know, a lot of people ask me, how can you teach math? That's one of the toughest subjects to teach. I think teaching math is the easiest part of my job. When the fences come down, that's when teaching begins. So my goal in school, when the school year starts, it's always so important to get my students to the point where they're coming in the classroom and they're not looking at that clock. They're staying after class to ask extra questions. They're asking questions in class. They're coming in class with a smile on their face. Having that rapport with kids is extremely important, because if you don't have that rapport with them, many of them are not going to work, because in their eyes, they're working for you.
Got you.
So Beth, may I ask a quick question?
Yep.
So Beth, how did you get them to trust you? Because a lot of times, we have sort of like a gap between, it's parents, students, and teachers, and it's always the teacher against the student. How did you be able to break down that wall for trust?
Well, first of all, when you walk in my classroom, there's always music playing, and the kids and I sing together. It's little things like that. When I'm teaching class, if I see a kid that seems a little down, I'll go sit by that student and teach from the desk next to that student and try to give that student a little more attention. I compliment my kids in class. When we make mistakes, to me, that's awesome, because we learn from those mistakes. And I thank kids when they make a mistake in class. It's all about making them feel comfortable. I'm there we stand out in the halls, the teachers do, and we talk to kids when they come by. And it's not always just about what's going on in class. Many of my kids enjoy coming in and saying, hey, Mrs. Deacon, guess what I did last night? You build that rapport so they want to talk to you. And you treat them with respect. You earn their respect like they earn yours.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I think that's a parenting tip too. I think we sometimes as parents, we have to toe the line, obviously, being a parent and being, quote unquote, their friend. But at the end of the day, we have to learn about our children just the same way, teachers do. And, asking those questions of our kids of, not only, just finding out the things that they're into and making a connection on a deeper level with them is important as well as in parenting. So those are some tools that, parents obviously could also follow as well. I want to get into your experience because you said you taught at the maximum state security prison, correct?
Yes.
All
Let
right.
me.
Good. You can go.
Okay. The reason I got into that, when I was teaching back in Michigan, I just moved to Iowa in 2014. Mm-hmm. Before that, I was a high school math teacher for approximately 25 years. And my last 2 years teaching in Michigan, my supervisor came up to me and he said, Beth, we need somebody in the community to help with adult math. I never thought anything of it. I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. Maybe I can help somebody out. So in the evenings, 4 days a week, from 3:30 to 6 o'clock, I went over to the adult education building and I worked with adults that needed help with math. And I'm going to tell you the biggest lesson I learned. I learned that kids go to school because they have to. They're told they have to. Adults go to school because they've experienced life and they know what it's like not to have a degree, not to have a diploma. So when I started working with adults, many of them came from the jail to school. Many of them didn't have jobs. They were just trying to better themselves. Many of them were in their 60s, 70 years old, just now deciding that they want to get an education. Some were just looking to learn how to read. But the big thing that I picked on really quickly is the fact that they truly, truly appreciated the help. They were there because they truly wanted to get that education. At first, it was tough. At first, it was like teaching in high school because, like I said, you have to get that rapport with kids. When you start out a new school year, kids don't talk as much. They don't answer as many questions. They don't ask as many questions. You got to build that rapport with them. That was the same with the adults. It was just as scary for them to come in on that first day and be in a math class with me when they probably hadn't done math in 20 years. So the rapport was very important, but I just really, really appreciated how much they respected me being there to help them and how much they wanted that help, how much they really wanted to change their lives. So for my last 2 years in Michigan, I did that. And in doing so, when we decided to move to Iowa, I started thinking, maybe I should take a few years off from working with kids and help some more adults. So I looked into different places and I found a community college that was hiring a teacher for the maximum security prison. And I thought, I'm going to do this. I think it'll be great. It'll be a great experience. Different students. I know I can help these men and I'm going to do it. So that's what got me to apply for the job in the first place.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you right there because me and Kareem, we talk about this all the time. Again, we talk about the why because we believe that the why changes your behavior. So is it safe to say, and Kareem, you can talk about this too, the difference in, I guess, the response of those adult students versus our traditional students is that the why is completely different. Kareem, would you agree with something like that?
I definitely will agree. And what Beth actually talked on is actually having some skin in the game. So when you actually have a why that's driving your purpose as to why you actually need to pay attention in math, why you need social studies, why you need science, all that's going to connect you to your ultimate goal or your purpose that you have or whatever you're trying to achieve. So for the young men that she's actually helping and assisting, they may want to be able to get their high school diploma coming from the state of Iowa. They may just want to be able to set the bar in their house to say that, son or daughter, I actually have my high school diploma. So they're actually setting the stage for a legacy of not even giving up. Not saying that, it's ever too late. You can always go back, and we're in a continuous state of learning. This is how we grow.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about the ripple effect in my book, and that's exactly what you're describing.
Johnny, you have to read the book. I already know what's in the book. I didn't have to read it. So I already know.
That's too funny. I can pinpoint exactly the moment where things changed for me from an educational, from a student standpoint. And to me, I always had a why, but also the connections. And I think education is starting to move out of teaching in those silos, where math isn't really connected to science and social, like everything was disconnected. I went to an engineering camp at Rutgers University in my 11th grade year, and it was during the summertime, and I would take these math classes. And at first it was all disconnected until at the end we had to do this big culminating project. But then I realized that, hey, I needed that particular class to be able to build this part, or I would need that history to figure out why these things. I started to see the connections between all the classes. And I think as educators, one of the biggest things that we can do for our students outside of developing that why is also building connections of the different classes so that it doesn't seem like it's disconnected. I think that's a huge piece to any educational puzzle as well.
One of the big projects I started doing in my class is data analysis. And even though we're not going to be able to finish it this year, we worked with Drake University and we competed in a competition where we had to develop algorithms to name the top 10 teams for March Madness. So that algorithm was what we used to name team number 1, 2, and so on. And what I loved about that is you don't have to be a brilliant math person to do this. The average kid, the average person could do this. And I think it's a great confidence builder for kids that struggle in math. And I have a lot of students that struggle in math. But I remember taking these kids to Drake University where we had an after get together, and they had a panel there of data analysis people. And they talked about the different jobs they did with data analysis. And some of it is just collecting the data, not necessarily doing the math. And it opened so many of my kids' minds. I mean, I can't tell you how many kids have come to me and said they want to do this again. It's just getting that excitement, getting them excited about something. Last year, I also did a case stats project at my school where the kids went to the basketball game and they took stats on the team, on the games. And then we brought those stats back and they presented to the school board and to the coach. And they made suggestions on what they thought could be done better, or, what was going on that was great. But it was real life to them, and they really took an interest in it.
I think a lot of times we're in this education field, and the only thing we have at the forefront is state testing or standardized testing, or we have the Common Core. We're not even being able to connect like practical concepts to students anymore. Everything is all about the curriculum, and it's all about standardized tests, and we're losing them because we're not able to close that gaps of what their why is and why this is important, and even how these standardized tests are even going to help them and benefit them long term. A lot of times they don't even understand that these standardized tests, and when you score high enough, will open up certain doors for you. Doors that you can't imagine that are open, because people that actually see these test scores you've never met before. And they make recommendations. They will reach out to the schools and say, hey, they have a student that scored in that level 5. I need to have a conversation with them. This is awesome. So we just need to become just a little bit more practical of being able to talk to them and where they at. So that will actually help students be able to connect what we're doing every day to their why.
And when I first came to the school I'm at now, where I'm teaching now, I heard over and over again that I may not want to do that because teaching at the prison was probably easier. And that intrigued me. It made me want to go to this school. But when I got there, I just sat back and watched for the first couple months. This is my 3rd year at the school, and I sat and just watched. We have an incredible progressive administration. The teaching staff is so tight, always willing to help, a lot of fun. The students, extremely respectful. I remember sitting down at Thanksgiving and telling the kids before we went on break how thankful I was for them to take me in, because I moved from 10 hours away to an area where I knew absolutely nobody, and this community took me in. But then I asked them, I said, I sit back and watch you guys in class, and you do so well. You answer questions, you get it. Why, when it comes to standardized tests, are your scores so low? And they said they didn't see the importance in it. So I looked at them and we talked about, their kids are going to come to school here someday. And, we want to show off our community. We want to be proud of what we do. So I told the kids, I said, you show me, you look me in the face and tell me you did the best you can on that test. And I'm going to try to do something special for you. So our staff got together and we got 50 tickets to the Ed Sheeran concert. And kids that improved on the test, their names are put in a hat. And those kids, the first 50 names that were picked, those kids went to the concert. What I loved about that is when it came to testing, kids were encouraging their friends. You got to do well on this. Maybe we'll get to go to the concert. For many of the kids in my area, it's more of a financially depressed area, so they never get a chance to get out. So that was huge to them. There was a huge difference in our scores. Do I think that's the only reason? No. But sometimes kids need that extra. They need to feel valued. They need to see that they're doing it, I guess, for another reason. And I didn't want them to feel that, you have to have an incentive to do well. But sometimes does it hurt to do that? This past year, we brought in Mr. Eddie Louisi from Good Morning America and Mr. Terrence Gordon and Devin Smith, and they got up and spoke to our class about what they do. And Mr. Gordon and Mr. Smith actually put together a video for our school, which talked about the kids' passions. So they had a bunch of kids come on film and talk about what they're passionate about. These kids were so excited about that, to have somebody that cared that much about them. I have kids already asking me, are we going to have an incentive again this year? And of course, we're working on things, but we're not going to have testing now this year. But you know what? Maybe right now that's what they need, but they're going to look back and be proud of how they're doing also. And they're going to look back, because I keep telling them, it's great to have incentives in that, but you need to work for yourself. And I'm hoping in the future, when they look back at this, they're going to say the incentive was pretty cool, but what was cooler is I did my best.
No, I don't think anything's wrong with the incentive, especially if it opens up experiences and new possibilities for students. Just think about how many kids never been to a concert. And
Exactly.
That opportunity. At my school, we do a March Madness reading challenge, where every class is like the NCAA tournament. You're going against each class, and you get points for X amount of books that you read. And at the end, we get last year we got to tour the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium, the link. But those kids were reading in the hallways. They were reading at home. Like those kids probably read more books in that month than they probably had in a lifetime. But the satisfying part for me was those kids who never been to a football game got to experience going into that stadium and seeing the behind the scenes and all that stuff, and got an experience that some of their parents may have never gotten an experience. They see it on TV, but it became real to them. So, incentives to me isn't a bad thing, as long as it opens up possibilities, and educational possibilities.
Exactly. Yes.
I want to go back to your experience with the maximum security prison. I want to know, and I ask teachers all this time, like, what was your first day like in the classroom? What was your first day like going into that experience?
Well, when I went in with the understanding. One thing a lot of people have asked me, I wanted to look at this differently. When I first started teaching there, everybody kept asking me, are you crazy? You're standing in front of murderers and rapists and gang leaders and that. What are you thinking? And my answer to that every time was no, I'm not. I'm standing in front of my students. And when I went in that first day, I was not scared. I was there to do a job. I was there to be a teacher, and I was there to help people move forward. I wasn't there to look at what the men did, because that was done and over with. They're serving their time for that. I was there to help them see their potential and move forward. And that was my mindset on my first day. It was just like if I were to walk into a regular classroom, what am I going to tell these men? What are I'm going to tell these students, so they get to know a little bit about me and why I'm truly there. Awesome. So it was a normal day for me.
Now, Kareem, you had a similar experience from a counseling angle. I remember you telling the story. They just locked the door, and you were in there with some of the inmates. Can you explain that experience a little bit?
So again, when I go in and doing like, I don't even call it motivational speeches, or just being able just to connect with students. My first day, it was like I wasn't prepared. I didn't have anything. I was just there to observe. And my mentor, Dr. King, he was like, okay, well, what do you have to say? I'm like, what do you mean? You didn't tell me to come prepared. No, if you're going to be here, you're going to be helping people, then you always should have something to say, something to pour in, even be able to plant seeds for people. So what do you have to say? So, I mean, I got up, did the best that I could. And again, I was raw. This is going back maybe 13, 14 years ago. And I really just poured into them. And what I saw in them was the potential. That's what I saw. And that's all I ever see when I see a kid. I don't see what they did yesterday. I don't see what they did last year. All I see was what's in front of me. So in order for me to be able to help someone move forward, I have to see a possibility of them actually moving forward. If I'm going to hold everybody to a standard of what they did yesterday, man, that'd be a rough life for me, because all the stuff that I did, people will never forgive me of. So I think that having that sense of forgiveness, and the reality that we're working with children, like they're on a path and they're learning how to not to make the same mistake twice. Mm. But again, when that door shuts and you're there and everybody's looking at you and all eyes are on you, you got to have something to say, and you have to offer them something. So even when we're talking about incentive based, if you want to change someone's behavior, you have to give them something in order to replace that behavior. So what you guys are giving them is actually experience that they can take and have for a whole entire lifetime. So now they can take that one experience of actually visiting a concert and saying, you know what, I think that I want to go the guy can say that, you know what, or the girl can say, you know what, I think now I actually seen what the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium looks like. I think I actually want to go work for them. Or a matter of fact, I want to be an owner. So now we're actually planting seeds for them to become better than what they were the day before.
Right. And I go back to parenting again, and I try to do this with my own kids, is to expose them to as much stuff as I possibly can. And and try to figure out what they're interested in. So even if it's from an athletic standpoint, play as many sports as you possibly can. Pick up an instrument. And I just try to expose them to as much stuff as I possibly can. You never know what they're going to, pick up and grasp. Beth, I do want to get into your book because we're running short on time a little bit here, but you have the books coming out soon called 7 Doors In, correct?
That is correct.
Can you give us?
I am going to walk the reader through those 7 doors and into my classroom. And it is my hope.
Don't skip over the title. Wait a minute, let's go over the title. I mean 7 doors. I mean, what's the 7 doors? What's the significance of that?
There's 7 doors. You got to walk 7 steel doors to get to the classroom. Everyone's shutting behind you on the way in, and it never bothered me.
Really? What happens if you change your mind?
People keep asking, how could it not bother you? But my mindset was so much on, I have to help these men see their potential. And I wasn't just teaching math at the prison. I was teaching math, writing, social studies. I mean, it was out of my normal area too. But I had that mindset that I have got to make a difference. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going in there looking at the men like they're, this one did this or this one did that. It just didn't matter to me. But I'll tell you this, on my first day, when I first started teaching at the prison, the men were given packets and they would work on those packets and I would walk around and help them. Okay. So eventually I turned it into a school because I was there to teach. I wanted to have a school. So, but when I first started, that's the way it was. And I remember my first day, one of the men raised his hand and he asked me if I would help him on a math problem. So I went over there to help him. And we went through the problem of that, and I asked him to do another one. I asked him to explain it to me. And when he got done, he looked at me and he said, Miss Beth, you're not nervous. And I looked at him and I said, why should I be nervous? And he said, because you're in here with us. I said, did I do something to harm any of you? And he said, no. And I said, then tell me why I should be nervous. I'm just here to help you guys. And I looked around the room and I could see all the men in the room were listening to that. And I think that was a big moment for me. But I was being honest with them. And I think they respected that.
I'll be honest with you. After we close that second door, I'm going to be like, hey, listen, wait a minute. Why y'all keep shutting doors behind me? What if I need to go to the bathroom? I want you outside the car. Wait a minute.
Well, I think you're going to appreciate that walk in.
That's hilarious. So the book is about that experience.
It's about all the successes, the failures, becoming part of a team, accountability. It's putting everything together. But I think what's most important to me is I feel I went in with being very unbiased. And when people read the book, I want them to go in with no expectations also. I don't want them to say, you're going to learn this, you're going to learn that, you're going to learn this. No, I just want you to come into my classroom, see what happens, and form your own opinion. I think that's really important. I want them to have the same mindset as I had. I didn't know anybody in prison. I had never been to a prison before that experience. So I had no idea what to expect. That's how I want everybody to read that book. I want them to walk in with me with no expectations. That's all I'm asking. Okay. And what happens from there, because a lot of stuff happens in there.
Do we have a tentative release date for the book?
We do. I'm in the editing stages right now, working on the cover. This would be a very wild guess to say August, but that's what my hope is, to have it out in August. Okay. I should be getting a final date coming up here though soon. Awesome. The editor is almost done editing her share, and then there's another editor that will go through and do a second edit on it. So that's the stage I'm at right now. Awesome. I'm really excited for it.
It sounds like it's a great book and story that's going to be coming out, and you should definitely be proud of your work. Anyone that's out there interested in writing books, I encourage you to do it. Kareem, I know you're still working on yours. You need to make sure you finish that at some point. My only advice to everyone is that you have to write and write. And
anyone that knows me, when I said I was writing a book, they're a little surprised, because I'm one of those people that I like to read math books, but to sit down and write and just read a book, that takes me a long time because I've never been interested in it. That's how passionate I am about this. Walking into that door 7 changed my life. It changed my view on things. It made me realize, I guess in a way, I feel, how dare I not realize the life some people have? Like out of sight, out of mind, I guess. And I want to change that. I want to make a difference, and I believe I can. I believe this book is my first voice to make a difference in people's lives.
Now, on our podcast, we like to have a little bit of fun. But before I get there, I want to ask one more question, serious question. I'm a first-year teacher. You're my mentor. What are some words of advice you would give to a first-year teacher in general?
I would tell them to relax, for one thing, and go in and get to know your students. Really, truly get to know your students. Sit down and talk to them. Earn their respect like they're going to earn your respect. Try to be upbeat whenever possible. And just know that kids have problems, and their problems seem like, to them, is the worst thing in the world. We need to be able to relate to these kids. We need to take time for kids. If you read in my, and I'm going to go, I want to say one other thing. If you go to my blog site, 7doorsin.com, I speak in there about a student, or a man that I had met at the prison, and he had done something special for my family, which you'll hear about in the book. But I remember seeing him one day. He was so upbeat and happy. But the next time I saw him, he was in a wheelchair. And I saw him down at the end of the hall, and I just waved to him, and I didn't go down and talk to him. 2 weeks later, I heard he was in the infirmary and he was dying. So I went to visit him. And when I went to visit him, he couldn't speak anymore. It was too late. So everything I should have said to him sooner, I didn't get that opportunity to say it to him because it was too late. He passed away that night. But I just think that sometimes we need to pay attention as teachers. I realize we're not counselors, but when you get to working with kids, you get to really know them. If something's off, you'll feel it. And in this world, we need to feel it. We need to take time for kids. The learning will come. I do not think teaching math is difficult. It's that rapport with the kids that is number one. Once you have that rapport, the teaching will come easy. That's my feelings.
And the website for your blog is the number 7doorsin.com?
Yep, 7doorsin.com.
Now, Kareem, I seen your pen moving over there. You got some additional questions?
I've just been taking notes, and everything that she's saying is, things that we have been, just discussing over, this is our 4th season now. And it's just, odd to hear that no matter where, our guests are coming from, but the same message is being repeated over and over again, that the importance of building a rapport, the importance of building trust, the importance of knowing what your why is, and just being able to make connections. That seems to be the common theme in having success with people, not just students, but just success with people.
Just be
And I
kind.
think that whole the whole thing of just taking time out for people is so important, because I lost my father last June. I mean, so you came down and everything, but I actually had time to be able to say everything I wanted to say to him. So when that day came, although I was hurt, it didn't surprise me, because I was ready for it. It gave me time to prepare. He actually gave me enough time to where as though that I can actually deal with it. And every day is not easier, because I do miss my guy, but at the same time, taking time out for people, because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. You never know when someone may take their last breath, and you're going to be disappointed because you didn't have the opportunity to take that time to say what needs to be said.
Absolutely. And now is a perfect time for you to reach out to those people who you have not talked to in a long time, because you're all quarantined pretty much, and you have the opportunity to reach out to those people. So make sure you take that time now to redevelop those relationships and to reach out to those people and say the things that you never had a chance to say. That's really important. Also, from a business standpoint, now is the time to create your opportunity too. Analyze what's going on, analyze your skill set, do some self-assessment work, find your gift, because we believe that everyone has a gift that God has given them, that you just need to find the vehicle to operate it in. Now is the time for you to create those opportunities and to really do some of the groundwork. So when things do get back to normal, you can connect with people, and you can start building your legacy. At the end of the day, that's what you're going to be working on doing. And I think every guest that we have on, they tell a similar story, and they're building their legacy, and they're working with people. And that's what we're about here with the Empowerment Perspective, is that we're trying to help you in any form, fashion that we can. Whatever platform we have, you feel like you have a story or a need, we're open arms, and we try to do that. We're just asking other people to do that for others as well. So we're going to make a little transition now, Beth. And I didn't tell you about this part here, but I'll let you ask something else, Kareem. Are you good?
Oh yeah, no. Where is that? 2019. It was all about embracing, your pettiness. So before we even start, Beth, I need to know whether or not if you're petty, or do we need to do an assessment to find out if you're petty? Because you're a math teacher, so you have no choice but to be petty.
I am not petty.
See, now here's how I know that you are, because you're a math teacher. You're the teacher.
I'm not your normal math teacher, Mr. Spence. I'm not. You never know what's going to happen when you walk in Mrs. Deacon's room. I could be on the chair dancing and singing to the kids. More like the math song, but
they don't have to show that work. Actually,
can I tell you? I grade work. I don't grade answers. I want kids to show me how they get answers, and I want to learn from them, because sometimes they have better ways of doing stuff than I do.
So what they just in their mind, like I'm doing math in my mind. Mental math.
You're saying that showing your work is petty.
Absolutely. I want to see my work, Ms. Deegan. I did my work.
Can I tell you though? And I do have some students like that, and sometimes talking to them is a way to do a test. And just getting them to tell me what's in that mind. Just talk to me. Let's just do the problem. You talk to me, I'll grade it like that. I'm open.
So they do a division problem, like it's multi-step, right? And they don't show their work. They be like, the answer's 3. And you're like, well, how'd you get it? They can't tell you, because they're not a snitch. They can't say that Raheem gave it to me. They got to say, you know what? I just know the answer is 3.
I always find a way to get them to say something to me. Even if it's
you have confidential informants.
What was that?
You have confidential informants inside the prison.
I have very much confidence, and after teaching for 28 years, don't you think I should? You guys, I've heard it all. Don't worry, I've heard it all. I've got my ways around everything, but my biggest thing is getting kids out there talking.
Yes.
I want them to talk to me. I don't care what's in their head. I want to hear it. I prefer it to be about math, but
I don't know.
Too funny.
My assessment is funny.
Put me on the spot. I don't mind.
It's all good. Well, Beth, we definitely thank you for your time and the
You guys are awesome.
wonderful things that you're doing out there in the Midwest. And hopefully we'll make our way back out to the Midwest. We were just out
Come
there.
visit us.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely love to do that. We didn't quite make it all the way out to Iowa. I think we stopped in Chicago as our last stop, but definitely.
There's wonderful people in Iowa. I'm telling you, you'll feel like you're part of our community. We include you from once you come here, you never leave. You're always included.
Whoa, that's scary.
I'm serious.
Like,
we show a lot of love out here in Iowa. We show a lot of love.
That's scary too. Like, I'm not going to close the doors.
That's funny. One more time, Beth, plug your website and your book, please.
7doorsin.com, and it's the number 7. And my book is also 7 Doors In.
Awesome. Mr. Spence,
7doorsin.com.
any last petty words from you?
Be kind. Be kind to people and believe in people, and you will not. If you just pick one person that's having a hard time and believe in them and help them, and when you see them succeed, it's going to be the best gift you could receive yourself. So just get out there and help people.
Spence.
2020, you gotta have that 2020 vision. You gotta see things before they happen. Like I said, I got a haircut last week, and I told my barber they're gonna shut it down. She didn't believe me. She's like, "No, they're not." Yeah, they are. So you actually have to start seeing things before they happen. So you actually, have to pay attention to what's going on in the world and not just ignoring what's going on in your house, but pay attention to what's going on in the world because, like Beth said, people are hurting. And as educators, we need to be that voice of reason to be able to plant seeds and give that sense of hope that things can get back to where they need to be in everyone's life.
Awesome. Just some housekeeping things on our end from the Department Perspective Group. The website is currently down. I'm making some changes to it, but we do have more podcasts that will be coming out. I believe the next one we are to be talking to someone who's written a book on mentorship and how important being a mentor is. We're going to talk to Coach Demetrius Poles, Rowan University women's basketball coach, talking about how to build systems within your organization. We also going to bring back our fitness guru. Nicole's going to give you some in-home exercises to do during this time. So we got a lot of stuff. Another Jen Kerr, shout out to her, cancer survivor who's writing her book. So we have a lot of things that are coming our way for season 4. I didn't want to focus too much on the situation that's currently going on, but people still need information, and we're going to make it through these current times. And we always say here at the Empowerment Perspective Group, stay empowered.